Hurricane season is winding down, and hundreds of thousands of people in the U.S. are still reeling from this year's disasters. And on the West Coast, the people are losing everything to massive wildfires that continue to rage out of control. Homeowners that have experienced natural disasters might be in for another disaster when they go to talk to their insurance companies. And I'm joined now by attorney Kim Adams to tell us what's happening. Kim, you've handled hundreds and hundreds of these types of cases for hurricane victims, and it's the same analysis that we're going to see in California. What is it that most people really don't get where it comes to this problem of insurance?
So I think what most people don't get is they don't read their policy, they don't understand their policy, and they don't realize that the language in their policy is going to severely limit their ability to make a recovery. I think one of the most important things that people miss from their policy, we can kind of get into a lot of the nuances with the language, but they miss how long, if you lose your home and you're displaced with your family,
right,
you need to be able to afford to uproot, move.
Place to live.
Yeah, a place to live. And people don't realize that either their coverage doesn't cover that at all, or it's limited in the amount of coverage, or thirdly, that their insurance carrier is not telling them the truth about what they're entitled to.
Yeah, okay, so what, actually it's more involved even than that, because you typically only have, 24 months? Is that a typical kind of
Well, not even that, 6 12
sometimes
months,
yeah, I've seen them as low as 6 months, right, that you have to react. Somebody reading a policy and really putting some demands on the policy is going to say, I want 24 months. It's going to cost a little bit more. But even 24 months might not be enough because you're displaced, right? Then you have to build a home.
Right.
And to build, you're displaced could be as much as a year, then you're having to build a home. Very seldom you're going to be able to build it in that year.
Right.
So that problem comes up. Now, here, let's add to this. California, insurance industry in California lost $16 to $18 billion last year, right? This is an industry that they're not used to paying money out.
Right.
Their actuarials tell them we need to make more money, and we make it by holding on to it.
That's right.
So right now, more than ever, we're going to see these insurance companies fighting every dime in California, because for 4 years they've had billion-dollar losses.
Oh yeah, clearly. And to go back to your point, 7,000 dwellings have been lost in some of these fires in 1 year. And so to have anyone think that they're going to be able to rebuild in 12 months, 24 months, even 36 months is kind of outstanding to even think that could happen. But, go ahead.
Well, I mean, isn't part of it, Kim, that somebody wants to sell you a policy. Your initial thought is, let me buy the least expensive policy until this happens.
Yeah.
And then you say, oh my God, let me read it now. And so we're living in a time, whether you're living on the coast, whether you're living in this remarkable area around California, you have every reason to want to live there. But if you're making that choice, make sure that you don't cut corners where it comes to insurance. It's going to cost you more. But if you want to live there, if you choose to move away because you're worried about it, that's one. But if you want to live there, you can't really make that decision without saying, I've got to pay a lot more for my insurance than I used to.
Right. So tips, you need to make sure that you have a broker or an agent that you can trust that's well established so you can go over some of these concerns. There's a ton of things people don't think about are going to come up.
What are a few more? I mean, the thing of being displaced is huge.
So I think that definitions and how, with hurricanes, for instance, here on the coast, people don't understand the difference between wind, flood, and who needs an extra flood coverage even if you don't live in a flood zone.
Right.
And storm surges. And I think that it's important to make sure those things require extra riders, a lot of times extra money. And so right now when people read their policies, I'm sure they're seeing exclusions. We're going to exclude this kind of flood insurance, and they're not understanding the difference. Well,
with fires, we're going to see a ton of exclusions.
Yeah.
It's going to be, if you're in this area, they have history now. We understand that climate change is real. People have been able to live up there. They've had to fight this on and off for a long, long time, but not like this. This is a new abnormal. And so let me just post one more thing. I see where PG&E is brought into it. PG&E will go bankrupt.
Yeah.
I promise you. Either PG&E will go bankrupt if they have to pay for this, or legislator will give them some kind of immunity. What's your take? I got about 30 seconds.
Yeah, well, I think the anticipated liability for PG&E, $17 billion. You're right. They will go bankrupt. FEMA, you've got federal government, you have politicians in Washington who have never experienced some of these disasters are saying it's the state's fault and we're not going to give you additional
Right.
funding. And so I think that, our only option is litigation against the insurers. We have to be careful to make sure that they don't pull coverage altogether.
Yeah.
And we have to make sure that people that can't afford it are, given some recourse.
Right. Kim, thanks for joining
Yeah,
me.
thank
Okay.
you.